Welcome back to Session 3 of this course, which will support you in mindfully and compassionately moving through times of transition and challenge by taking good care of the present moment. In the last session, we learned how we can trust the unknown and let our big questions rest and germinate into wisdom and clarity. Today's session focuses on the power of accepting times of transition and difficulty so we can move through them more gracefully. One of the things that can make navigating times of transition and challenge even more difficult is when we resist the changes coming at us, or we think there's something wrong with our life or with us when the road gets bumpy. We may believe that life is not supposed to be this way. But if we plan and prepare carefully enough, or act in a meticulously organized fashion, or follow all the rules, we can stay in control, and our life circumstances will remain smooth and predictable. But transition and challenge are a part of life. They're not wrong or bad. In the Buddha's most essential teaching, the Four Noble Truths, he shares his discovery that suffering is a part of life. There is no escape from it. This is the first of the Four Noble Truths, and acknowledging it can help us to suffer less. If we can accept where we are and not judge the disruption in our life as wrong or bad, we can touch great freedom. This is because fighting what is actually doesn't work. Whatever we resist persists. In the heart of the Buddha's teaching, Thich Nhat Hanh writes, "We need suffering in order to see the path. If we're afraid to touch our suffering, we will not be able to realize the path of peace, joy, and liberation. Don't run away. Touch your suffering and embrace it. Make peace with it." I love the US-based TV show This Is Us, and in an episode in Season 4, the character Rebecca Pearson, matriarch of the family, decides to embrace her recent diagnosis of Alzheimer's, to stop fearing or worrying about what she will lose, and live her life as deeply as possible while it's still available to her. She makes peace with the tragedy of her illness and decides to enjoy the time still left to her. Thai would often say, a true practitioner isn't someone who doesn't suffer, but someone who knows how to handle their suffering. We could say that the measure of our accomplishment or success is not that our life has no ups and downs, but that we can surf the waves. I first ordained as a novice nun in 1999. I had been living in Plum Village for a year until then with the other lay women, and I had my space, my freedom. Somehow I expected that when I ordained, I would become this angelic, totally peaceful and happy nun. But when I became a nun, I began living with the sisters in the nuns' quarters in more crowded conditions. There was one sister I felt uncomfortable with, and now I couldn't avoid her. I would meet her in the bathroom, in the common room, in the dining room. And suddenly I realized I was suffering more and experiencing more anger than when I was a lay person. I thought it would be just the opposite. At first I resisted this new development, thinking that something was wrong with me. But after about 2 months, I realized this was exactly why I ordained. For these difficult emotions to arise, so I could see them clearly and learn how to work with them. If they wouldn't arise, I wouldn't be able to work with them and transform them. The picture of monastic life as free of all pain was quickly replaced by the reality of a life that was going to give me ample opportunity to be a good mindfulness practitioner, not by avoiding my suffering, but by learning to take good care of it. There is a teaching that says, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Everyone has difficulty. No one can be immune to this, but how we respond to it, that's up to us. The Buddha taught that when pain comes to us, it's like we're hit with an arrow. But when we resist our pain, when we get stuck in blaming and judging, we're shooting ourselves with a second arrow in the same spot, and it's much more painful than the first. Ajahn Chah, the Thai forest monk and teacher, asked his students one day when they passed a big boulder, "Do you think that boulder is heavy?" His students said, "Yes, it's extremely heavy." Ajahn Chah replied, "Only if you try to pick it up." So we avoid unnecessarily picking up boulders when we let go of fighting the challenges in our lives. If we can change something, we should do it without complaining, judging, or blaming. But if we can't do anything to change it, we can learn to accept it. Shantideva, the 8th century Indian Buddhist monk and scholar, says it this way: "Why worry if you can do something about it? And why worry if you cannot do anything about it?" So let's move into our practice by finding a comfortable position of dignity and ease. Let's really take our seats, really occupying this moment. If there are parts of ourselves somewhere else, in some other time, past or future, we can invite all of them to come back. We'll be here. We'll be now. Allowing ourselves to just be here. With all the tumult in our lives, we can still breathe in and out with presence, recollecting ourselves. Feel the contact between your body and the floor, whether it's through the soles of your feet if you're in a chair, or your legs if you're sitting on the ground. Knowing that the earth is supporting you in this moment. Allowing the in-breath and the out-breath to flow naturally. Experiencing how the breath arrives, what happens as you breathe in, and how the out-breath just does what it does quite naturally. Breathing in, becoming aware of the body. Breathing out, allowing the body to rest, calming the body. Aware of the body with the in-breath, calming and resting with the out-breath. If you notice that your mind wanders into thinking, planning, worrying, acknowledge that, and you can return to them later. But for now, engage again with the exercise of this moment. Inhale and open up to the awareness that this moment is enough, that what we need, it's already here. As you exhale, practice to accept that life is as it is in this moment. Allow it to be there just as it is. Inhaling the sense of enoughness, of contentment, that actually things are okay right here and right now. We don't need anything more. Exhaling acceptance of how things are. Breathing in enoughness, breathing out acceptance. So we practice to accept our situation as it is, whatever the awkwardness, discomfort, suffering, loss, or grief. We can open ourselves to it rather than resisting it or pushing it away. That helps the pain already begin to lessen straight away. We sit in acceptance, not shooting ourselves with the second arrow. We'll close with this poem from Rilke. Quiet friend who has come so far, feel how your breathing makes more space around you. Let this darkness be a bell tower and you the bell. As you ring, what batters you becomes your strength. Move back and forth into the change. What is it like, such intensity of pain? If the drink is bitter, turn yourself into wine. In this third session, we've explored the possibility of meeting challenges with acceptance, not avoiding or resisting suffering, but instead learning to open to it. We've practiced connecting to our experience and letting it be just as it is. In the next session, we'll explore how we can weather the storms of challenging times through the practices of belly breathing and walking mindfully.